The sound of Daniel's footsteps on the porch made Emma's heart race. Mara was still in the living room, standing quietly by the window, her hands lightly clasped in front of her. Emma tried to steady her breathing, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness she hadn't anticipated. She wasn't sure what she had been expecting and guard discomfort. Awkward silence, but Mara's calm presence made everything feel heavier. More important, Daniel stepped inside, shaking off the cold from his coat. He smiled at Emma, the same warm, familiar smile that always made her feel safe. Then he noticed Mara, and his smile widened, but it didn't change in tone. It was not a jealous smile, not a suspicious one, just recognition, awareness, and somehow that made Emma's stomach twist in ways she didn't understand. She didn't want anything forbidden, but she couldn't deny the emotional tension in the room. "Hey, Mara," Daniel said casually, though Emma could tell he had noticed the weight of the silence. "Good to see you. Did you just come from walking around the neighborhood?" Mara nodded softly, returning his smile. "Yes, I thought I'd stop by for a moment and say hello. Emma's been kind enough to invite me in." Emma felt her cheeks heat up. The moment was surreal. Mara wasn't flustered or uncomfortable. She wasn't pushing any boundaries. She was simply there, quietly acknowledging Emma, quietly existing in the same space, and it felt electrifying. Emma tried to make her voice steady. "I'm glad you came in. It's nice to talk." The three of them sat down in the living room. Daniel leaned back in his chair, watching them with gentle curiosity, letting Emma and Mara talk. Emma didn't know where to start. How do you explain a feeling you barely understand? She had been trying to understand it herself for days, replaying each interaction with Mara in her mind, feeling a warmth that wasn't romantic in a traditional sense, but something deeper, emotional, intense, and undeniable. Mara finally spoke first. "Emma, you seemed a little distant today. Did I do something wrong?" Her voice was soft, but it carried a careful honesty, as if she genuinely wanted to understand without judgment. Emma shook her head quickly. "No, not at all. It's not you. It's me. I've just been feeling something confusing lately, and I don't know how to explain it." Ara tilted her head slightly. "Something confusing," she repeated, and Emma could see her eyes weren't judgmental. They were curious, empathetic. She wanted to understand, not judge. That simple fact made Emma feel safe in a way she hadn't expected. Emma took a deep breath. "It's hard to describe. It's like I feel something I've never felt before. Something that's not romantic, not inappropriate, but deep." And Daniel, he noticed, and he suggested I try to understand it with you. When she said it out loud, the words felt like a confession. But Mara didn't look shocked or uncomfortable. She only nodded slowly, as if she had anticipated this moment, as if she had been waiting for it just as much as Emma had. "Even if she didn't know it," Emma continued, "I didn't know how to feel about it. It's confusing and exciting and a little scary." Her voice trembled slightly, but Mara's calm presence kept her grounded. Mara smiled softly. "Emma, I've felt a connection too. Not like something dangerous or wrong, but real, emotional, meaningful. And I didn't want to push anything. I just wanted to be here, if you needed someone to talk to." Emma's chest tightened. Relief and fear mixed together. She wasn't imagining it. The connection was real, but it wasn't about romance or temptation. It was about understanding, emotional truth, human connection. And the way Mara accepted it without judgment made everything more intense. Daniel spoke then, gently, his voice carrying warmth and reassurance. "Emma, you don't have to make any decisions right now. Feelings aren't always easy to understand. The important part is that you're honest with yourself and with each other. That's all." Emma looked at him, feeling a rush of love for a man who never made her feel guilty for her emotions. He wasn't jealous. He wasn't fearful. He simply supported her, trusted her, and gave her space to figure out her feelings. That trust was rare, and Emma felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. She had never felt more understood in her life. Mara shifted slightly, sitting down across from Emma, keeping her voice low and careful. "You don't have to rush anything, Emma. You just need to notice your feelings. You don't have to define them immediately. Sometimes just acknowledging them is enough." Emma nodded. Mara was right. That was exactly what she needed space to feel, without pressure, without expectation, without fear. She had spent weeks questioning herself, wondering if she was doing something wrong by feeling this emotional intensity. And Mara's calm presence, coupled with Daniel's understanding, gave her permission to exist fully in her emotions. I've never felt understood like this," Emma admitted softly. "Even with Daniel, this is different." Mara's expression softened. Different isn't bad. Different is just. Growth, connection, something that challenges you, but gently. Something that makes you aware of your own heart. Emma exhaled slowly, trying to let go of the tension she had been holding for days. Mara's words had a clarity that Daniel's kindness couldn't fully provide, though both combined made Emma feel safe and accepted. She realized that the feeling she had been ignoring wasn't about Mara, or Daniel, or even relationships in the traditional sense. It was about understanding herself. And that realization made her feel empowered. Daniel's voice broke the quiet. "Emma, whatever happens, you have me. We have each other. Nothing about this has to be confusing if you take it slow. Just be honest with yourself. That's the only rule." Emma nodded again, grateful for the stability he provided. She looked at Mara, who gave her a gentle, encouraging smile. No pressure. No judgment. Just understanding. For a moment, the room was quiet, filled with unspoken emotions. Emma could feel her heart beating in her chest, rapid and alive, but not frantic. She realized she wasn't afraid. She was curious. She was ready to explore her emotions, not in any dramatic or dangerous way, but honestly, with someone who could hold space for her without expectation, and with Daniel by her side. Supportive and trusting. Emma's gaze shifted between Daniel and Mara. She realized something important. This wasn't about temptation or desire. This wasn't a story about betrayal. This was about emotional clarity, about connection, about trust and understanding in ways she had never allowed herself to experience before. And somehow the fact that Daniel encouraged it, not out of fantasy, but out of love and respect, made it safe, made it real. Mara leaned forward slightly, her voice gentle. "Emma, you don't have to figure it all out tonight. Maybe we just acknowledge what's here. Feel it, learn from it. That's enough for now." Emma smiled faintly, feeling a strange lightness. Acknowledging, that's all I need. She looked at Daniel, who smiled back with quiet pride and understanding. "Thank you," she whispered. "Both of you, for being you." Daniel reached out and gently squeezed her hand. "Always," he said. Mara nodded, her expression soft but strong. "I'll be here when you're ready. And until then, we don't have to define anything. Just feel." The sound of the wind outside the window and the faint hum of the heater filled the room. It was peaceful. Emma realized that this was a moment she would remember, not because it was dramatic or romantic or forbidden, but because it was honest, because it was emotional, because it was real. Then, as if the universe had decided to test her heart, Mara looked at Emma with a question in her eyes that didn't need words. "Do you trust this? Trust what you're feeling?" Emma felt her chest tighten again. She didn't need to answer aloud. The answer was already clear. She did. And that trust, fragile and powerful, felt like the beginning of something entirely new. It wasn't a story of heartbreak or scandal. It wasn't a story of loss. It was a story about growth, about connection, about the bravery it took to feel fully and honestly. And it was a story Emma would carry with her, slowly, carefully. One moment at a time. The knock of Daniel's keys on the porch reminded them both that life continued outside the living room, beyond this quiet, emotional bubble. But inside, everything had shifted. Emma realized she didn't need to fear the feelings that Mara had sparked. She didn't need to rush toward clarity. She only needed to exist fully in this new emotional reality. And as Mara rose to leave, giving Emma one last reassuring smile, Emma knew something profound had changed. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. She didn't know how her feelings would evolve. But she knew one thing. She had faced the unknown without fear. She had acknowledged her heart. And somehow that made her stronger, more alive, and deeply, quietly hopeful. That evening, as Daniel and Emma sat together after Mara left, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. There were questions, yes, emotions, she didn't fully understand, but they weren't heavy or destructive. They were gentle, human, and full of possibility. Emma finally realized that sometimes, most profound moments in life aren't about the choices we make. They're about the courage to feel in, to trust that feeling, even when the world doesn't give us instructions or guarantees. And as she looked at Daniel, her heart full of gratitude and wonder, she knew that this was only the beginning of a journey she had never imagined, but a journey she was ready to take. Emma had always believed she understood her life. After 9 years of marriage, living in a quiet Oregon neighborhood with her husband Daniel, she thought she knew every corner of her own heart. Their life worked like a calm rhythm morning coffee at the same kitchen table. Small conversations during breakfast, soft music playing in the evenings, and weekend drives through pine-lined roads. Nothing dramatic ever happened, and Emma liked it that way. Or at least she believed she did. But something shifted on a rainy Thursday afternoons, the day Mara moved into the house next door. Emma first saw her while taking out the recycling. Mara stepped out of her car, her hair slightly messy from the wind. Her smile warm in a way that felt strangely familiar, even though they had never met. She had an energy Emma couldn't explain, calm, inviting, like someone who had lived through storms but still kept gentleness in her eyes. Nothing romantic happened, nothing inappropriate, but something inside Emma reacted before she understood why. They exchanged a simple hello, just a short greeting, but Emma felt a tiny spark of interest, curiosity. She didn't know. She tried to brush it off and continued her day, but the feeling followed her like a shadow. The next morning, Mara appeared again, this time walking past Emma's garden. She admired the flowers and made a small comment about how lovely the lavender looked. Emma found herself smiling more naturally than she had in weeks. It wasn't romance. It wasn't attraction in an inappropriate way. It was just a connection, a quick, bright moment of feeling seen, and Emma wasn't used to that anymore. She didn't tell Daniel about it at first. It felt too small, too strange to mention. But he noticed anyway. Daniel always noticed things about her. Late at night, when they sat together on the couch watching TV, he saw how her mind drifted. She wasn't distant in the hurtful way, just thoughtful, almost restless. One evening, after Mara had joined them for a quick cup of tea and left, Daniel turned off the television and looked at Emma with soft worry. "You're quiet," he said. "I'm tired," she answered. But she knew he didn't believe her. Daniel waited a moment before speaking again. "Is something bothering you?" Emma hesitated. How could she explain the feeling when she barely understood it herself? She expected jealousy or suspicion from him if she said the wrong thing. Yet Daniel surprised her, as he always did. "It's about Mara, isn't it?" he said gently. Emma's heart skipped. "What makes you think that?" He shrugged a little, not accusing, just observant. "You smile differently when she's around. And that's not a bad thing. I'm just trying to understand." Emma looked down at her hands. "I don't know what it is. She's just easy to talk to. It feels natural." "And that confuses you," Daniel said, finishing the sentence for her. Emma nodded slowly. Daniel reached out, taking her hand with a quiet confidence that came from years of love. "Emma, you're allowed to have connections. You're allowed to feel things. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong." Those words hit her deeper than she expected. His kindness, instead of easing her confusion, made her feel emotional. "But why does it feel so strong?" she whispered. "It's like I knew her before I met her." "Maybe," Daniel said softly, There's a part of you haven't explored yet, and maybe she brings it out." Emma stared at him, stunned. He wasn't threatened. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even jealous. He was supportive. Too supportive? What are you saying? She asked. Daniel took a careful breath. I'm saying, if talking to her, understanding what this feeling is, helps you, then maybe you should. I don't want you to bury it. Not from me, and not from yourself. Emma didn't know how to respond. She wasn't thinking of anything romantic. She wasn't thinking of leaving him. She wasn't thinking of crossing any boundaries. The feeling was softer than that, more emotional than physical, something like admiration mixed with curiosity. Something she couldn't label, and yet Daniel seemed to understand more than she did. That night she barely slept. She replayed every moment with Martha's smile, the kind comments, the gentle presence. Why did it matter so much? Why did her heart react so quickly to someone she barely knew? She tried to convince herself it was nothing, just a friendly spark. But deep down, she knew it was different. Not wrong, just different. The next morning, her restlessness grew. Every sound from next door made her heartbeat jump slightly. She felt silly for it, but she couldn't stop. She kept telling herself it was harmless, normal, human. People connected with others all the time. But Daniel's words lingered in her mind. Maybe. You should explore what the feeling means. Explore. The word felt dangerous. Not because of what it implied, but because of what it made her feel vulnerable. Exposed and curious all at once. By afternoon, she managed to distract herself with chores and cooking. She wanted to feel normal again, to return to the familiarity of her marriage and her routine. But every thought drifted back to Mara. When the knock came at the door, she expected it to be Daniel. But when she opened it, Mara stood there instead, her cheeks pink from the cold. Her eyes bright and unsure. "Hey," Mara said softly. "I hope I'm not bothering you." Emma shook her head. Not at all. Mara hesitated before stepping inside, as if sensing Emma's mixed emotions. "I wanted to check in. You seemed a little different today." Emma swallowed. She wasn't ready for this conversation. She wasn't even ready for her own thoughts, let alone sharing them. "I've just had a lot on my mind," Emma admitted, trying to keep her voice steady. Mara looked concerned. "Did I do something?" "No," Emma said quickly. "It's not you, or maybe. I don't know." They moved to the living room, and for a moment the silence felt too heavy, too revealing. Emma could feel Mara's quiet understanding, like a warm light in the room, you know. Mara said gently, "You don't have to explain anything you're not ready to explain." Emma felt her throat tighten. Mara wasn't pushing. She wasn't assuming anything. She was simply there, safe.com, understanding in a way Emma didn't expect. That made it harder and easier at the same time. "I talked to Daniel," Kima said suddenly, surprising herself. Mara's eyebrows lifted slightly. "About me?" Emma nodded, embarrassed. "What did he say?" Mara asked. Emma hesitated before answering. "He told me I should explore what I'm feeling." Mara looked surprised, but not shocked, and definitely not uncomfortable. "What are you feeling?" she asked quietly. Emma shook her head. "I don't know yet." That's the problem. It's not romantic. It's not anything like that. I just feel drawn to you, like I've known you longer than I have. Mara let out a slow breath. "Emma, I feel something too. Not anything complicated or inappropriate. Just connection. Real connection." Hearing those words made Emma feel both relief and fear. She wasn't imagining it. She wasn't overthinking it. Something existed between them, gentle, emotional, meaningful, but still safe. Before Emma could respond, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway made them freeze. Daniel was home. Mara's expression softened again. "Do you want me to go?" Emma shook her head automatically, even though she didn't know what would happen next. Mara stood, giving her a kind smile. "Then we'll talk later. Only if you want to." She walked toward the door just as Daniel stepped inside. He saw Mara, then looked at Emma with quiet understanding. Emma's heart pounded. She didn't know what she was stepping into or where this new feeling would lead. She only knew this moment changed something inside her forever. Something gentle, emotional, and still uncharted. And she wasn't sure whether she was ready for the truth that would follow next.